Hello and welcome to the Crowdfunding Roundup. If it's the first time that you're watching these videos, just know that I bookmark, tab all the videos. So if you're looking for specific content, you can mouse over the bar and go directly to the game or the campaign that you're looking for. And I also have links to all of the campaigns that I'm talking about. So if something lands for you and you're particularly interested in it, you can go down into the description section, click on the link, and it'll take you right to the campaign. Now, I publish these videos 3 times a week. The first one comes out on Tuesday, and that looks at all the campaigns that launched basically over the weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Then the Wednesday edition covers the games that launched on Tuesday. That's generally the biggest video because most crowdfunding campaigns these days launch on Tuesdays. And then I do this video, which is the Friday edition. And in this video, I look at the games that launched on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And because it's a shorter video, there's less stuff. I'm also now going to be looking at the cherry-picked campaigns that are completing funding in the following week. So these Friday editions will come loaded with a second section, and it'll be your opportunity, if you're watching these over the weekend, to make sure that nothing is funding next week, the following week, that you weren't aware of or that you forgot about. So it'll be sort of a second chance just to be clued in on what is finishing funding. Now, the best way to support this channel at this point in time is to like and subscribe. Subscribing will also keep you in the loop so that you'll be notified when I publish these videos. And I also have a lot more content coming in the coming weeks and months. And I'll be talking more about that in the Tuesday editions because those videos are probably going to be the shortest videos, right? The Wednesday videos will have the most campaigns. The Friday videos will also be looking at the campaigns that are funding in the next week that are finishing, and which is going to leave the Tuesday videos being on the shorter side. So I think in those Tuesday videos, that'll be when I do, at the end, channel updates and talk about what's coming. So just know that there is more content that's going to be launching soon, including newly revamped teach and review videos with better equipment so that it'll look better. I may be doing some gameplay videos on Board Game Arena where I'm offering sort of like next level strategy tips. I plan on doing some videos that look at physical games, so not just Board Game Arena, but physical games, looking into deep dives into strategy and mechanics. And then I'll also be doing live streaming and eventually launching a Patreon. So in the Tuesday edition, at the ends of those videos, that's where I'll talk more about that. Now today I have 3 campaigns. There's only been 3 campaigns that have launched since the last video in the last 48 hours or so. So we'll look at those 3 campaigns and it won't take too long. And then we'll look at the 5 sort of hand-picked campaigns that I wanted to make you aware of that will be completing their funding next week. So the first of these is called Birdie Pro. This is a board game that is themed around disc golf, and it's by a couple of brothers who are disc golf players. It's called Birdie Pro, and the first thing you want to look at, I think, when you're looking at a Kickstarter is it going to fund or not, right? Has it funded? And usually campaigns will do about 2/3 of their business in the first 2/3 of their business in the first 24 hours and 1/3 of their business in the last 24 hours. So this campaign has already funded. They've got $7,200 with a $5,000 funding goal. It's going to complete its campaign on April 9th. So it's a longer campaign. And it is by these brothers, Steve Dodge. I forget the other brother's name. Let's just go over here. Here we go, Birdie Pro. The publishing entity is called the Boda Brothers. And this is not the first go-round for them. They actually produced a version of this game in 2020, Todd Dodge and Steve Dodge. You can see the complexity on this game is 2.25. Generally, I consider a medium-light game to be between 2.0 and 2.55. So this is kind of right in the middle of that medium-light range. And this had a 6.4 rating from users. So that's, okay, not great. And mechanic-wise, we're looking at dice rolling, push your luck, and take that. Now, they produced this game in 2020, like we said. And if we look over here, we can see that they did this campaign down here, right? So then they did another one for an expansion pack. They did this other game, and their fourth project here is Birdie Pro, which is kind of like a tweaked, better edition of their original game. So if we go to, let's close out of that. If we go to this is the new version, plays 1 to 6 players, and we can see that this one also has card play, conflict resolution, and resource to move. And they describe it as a fun disc golf board game where strategy can set you up to succeed, but karma waits around the corner. 13 players offer great replayability, build your skills and use them wisely. Karma cards offer a clash of luck for you to sprinkle upon yourself or your opponents. Add a few dice and roll your way to victory. So this is, kind of like a home brewed sort of game. These guys aren't, they haven't done a lot in terms of board games. They're not like professional board game designers. They just are disc golf players who decided to make a disc golf themed board game. And I think it looks pretty cool. I'm kind of intrigued by it. I think the kind of lowest produced element of it is the cards, the iconography in the cards. They're just not as attractive as they maybe could be. But I like the board, and I like just the whole idea of this. I like the theme here. Here they've got an insert, so everything kind of stays in the insert. Those are always nice to have. Yeah, and here's kind of a look at the board there. Okay, now in this Kickstarter campaign here, they've also got sort of an expansion. Where is it? It's called Fox Run. So this board is actually based on an actual disc golf course. And so in this Kickstarter, they've got a second course here. It's the Fox Run expansion course. The boards utilize the DGPTT signs, so they stay as true as life as possible. And you get a look at that. That's just kind of an extra board and extra course you're going to get in this campaign. Now, if you're interested in this, you can pledge the conversion kit here. If you have the original version of the game and you want to upgrade it to this new version, you can pledge that for $24. Shipping, where is shipping at? Here they talk about what's improved. A graphic designer basically for the rule set, but they have other improvements they've made, some new pieces and things. All right, back to finding shipping. Actually, let's see if it just autofills. Yes, it does. Okay, so the conversion kit is $30. That would be if you had the first version of the game and you sort of wanted to upgrade it to this newer version. If you just want the new version, it is with shipping in the continental US, $42. And this version, $52, would get you the conversion kit plus this new Kickstarter exclusive expansion. And then this version, $64, would get you the new version of the game and the expansion board. And then they've got a couple higher pledge levels for multiple copies of the game. This one is if you wanted to get one copy of the new game and the conversion kit, plus the expansion pack. It's probably unnecessary. You'd have to be in a very unique situation to have the old version of the game, want the conversion kit, and a new version. But there are some higher pledge levels here. And then here's a more expensive one, sort of a vanity reward, where if you pledge this one, you're going to actually have an invitation to go and meet the brothers and play disc golf with them in person in Massachusetts. So before we finish with this one, let's take a quick look at their video.
Are you ready to disc golf? Birdie Pro. Birdie Pro is a new disc golf board game. Utilizing the base mechanics of Birdie, the best-selling board game of all time, we've made a better game that puts you...
Okay, so he said the best-selling board game of all time. That's obviously not true. I think what he meant to say is the best-selling disc golf board game of all time. Either that, or he's just... I think he misspoke, but yeah.
on the tee. Get in the game. The board game. Birdie Pro.
Alright, so you get a better look here, I think, at the board, at some of the components, the dice. I'm actually pretty intrigued by this. I like this idea. I like the idea of a disc golf themed board game. There aren't a lot out there, right? That's why he can say it's the whatever best-selling one of all time, because there probably isn't another one. But it seems pretty cool to me. Keeping in mind that these are, it's being produced on a lower level. They're doing what they can at their level. And these cards, obviously, these are the ones that give you more variability into the game because they add conditions and things, so it'll vary up the game. D20s.
But wait, there's one more thing. Our Kickstarter stretch goal features a Birdie Pro exclusive through Kickstarter. Simon Lizotte and many of his MVP teammates will be featured in your game only. Not your game only, but your game through the Kickstarter only. So if you get the Kickstarter, it'll be featured in your game. But everybody else does it through the Kickstarter too. Got it? Get it? You know it's good. Thank you all for watching, and please support our Kickstarter and share it with your friends. Let's get Birdie Pro into the universe.
Okay, so I think what he's talking about there is that expansion board. So that is, I believe, the Kickstarter exclusive, a Kickstarter exclusive. If this thing ends up going to retail, that won't be included. So that is the first campaign that launched over the last 48 hours or so. The second is this game, Mandala Mind, the card game. It says, find joy in the present moment in this puzzly cooperative game for 1 to 2 players. They have a very small funding goal for this, $600. They're currently at $700, so it's funded. It's going to complete its campaign on April the 7th. And it's an abstract game, kind of a card game, and it is, obviously another kind of smaller production. Even smaller than Birdie Pro, I think, because you don't have a board and all that stuff. You just have a puzzly card game. It's being produced here by Alex Beers, Green Gourd Games. This is their first Kickstarter. So that's something to keep in mind. I think Birdie Pro, they're newer, they're not huge board game professionals, but they've produced the game a couple times now. And Birdie Pro is sort of a refining of that game. This Mandala Mind is, let's look, designed by Alex Beers, art by Saskia de Klerk, being published by Green Gourd Games, I believe. Yep. This is a, yes, first time for the designer, the artist, and the publisher, and as a Kickstarter. So that's just something to take into account. They haven't done this before. No one on their team has done this before. But it is a card game. It's a puzzle game. It uses action points, cooperative game, grid movement, scenario mission campaign game, solo solitaire, so you can play it solitaire, and variable player powers. And it's described here as, in Mandala Mind, the card game, you play as the frame of mind of a person who is meditating on an image of a mandala. This person is distracted at the beginning of their meditation, and your goal is to help them focus. Once focus has been achieved, you will have succeeded in bringing them into the joy of the present moment. So it's this card game to try to, sort of represent that attempt to meditate. And they've got some cards here. I like the design actually for this. It's simple. That's all it really needs to be. And the colors and the art really pop. But, keep in mind this is a smaller production, newer people, first timers. Now, if you wanted to pledge the game, with shipping in the US, it's $20. So whatever risk there is, it's only $20 of risk. And let's see. Should we do they actually have a how to play? Let's see.
All right.
You know what? I'm not going to do the full how to play. It's a 10-minute video. But here, this will give you a little look at some of the cards and the art. All right, it's a simple, small package, but it seems well designed for what it is, and I like the art. So if you're into, puzzly, abstract games and you want to support smaller publishers, a new fledgling publisher, maybe this is something you want to go take a look at. Okay. And that is, 1 to 2 player game. So the final game of this video, of the new campaigns that launched, is Steve Jackson Games Hack and Slash game plus new promo cards. Now, this had a funding goal of $1,000. They're at $14,000, so they're well funded. It's going to complete its campaign on March 16th. And you probably know Steve Jackson Games from Munchkin. So they produce Munchkin, which seems to be kind of a love it or hate it thing with a lot of people. But it's a simplistic kind of push-your-luck hand management game. Now, this is, in this quick game, first published in 2021, your guild of adventurers is ready for anything. Battles, rescues, and the liberation of whatever pays you most. Choose a quest and roll the dice. You may win fame and even recruit a new comrade for your party, or you may fail and slink back to the tavern. Don't fail. So it looks like it does have a lot in common with Munchkin, but this is more of a card game. But it's, it's not going to be high strategy. It's got dice involved, and it's all about kind of, I want to say it's a party game, but, it's a fun game. Or it wants to be a fun game. And it's for, I think like Munchkin, it is for a minimum of 3 players. So you can't play it solo. You can't even play it with 2 players. And it's got a complexity rating of 1.0, so it's a very light game. And it's got a 6.7 rating on Board Game Geek, which is not great. Central mechanism here is dice rolling. And let's see, what do they say? With your support, we'll print all of the new cards and start using them in our web store orders and at conventions. The promos will be sent out randomly one at a time, so the best way to secure a complete set is to support this Kickstarter. So they say that they sold through the first printing, they did a second printing, and expanded the game with a sequel, Hack and Slash 2. So it's kind of more game in the box. Plus they've got these promos. So if this is something that is appealing to you, you can just get the promo cards here for $5. You can get the second version of the game with the promo cards for $15. You can get the promos in a playmat for $25. You can get the original game with Hack and Slash 2 and the promo cards for $35. And then it looks like, is this the all-in? For $70, you've got 1 and 2 and the promo cards and a couple other games, One Roll Quest and Gelatinous. And then they have a deluxe package, which takes back out those extra games, but adds in a t-shirt. And adds the playmat back in. So you're not getting the playmat at the $70 level with these additional games. So there's a bunch of different things that you could pledge. Here's what the card art looks like. But it's going to be, kind of a some randomization, some dice rolling. There's that playmat from the makers of Munchkin, so you can expect kind of similar, if not gameplay, then a similar style of gameplay. Now, let's take a quick look up here. Do they list? I believe they have shipping up here. Yeah, so I'm not going to go back and add all of the different shipping prices into the various levels, but just know that if you're getting the promo cards, it's $5 for shipping, so it'd be a $10 total, and it goes up from there based on the pledge level, and the highest one, for a non-retailer, the highest one is $15. So your shipping on those various pledge levels are between $5 and $15. So those are the 3 campaigns that I wanted to show you that have launched in the last couple of days. And then in the back half of this video, I thought I'd profile 5 campaigns that are completing their funding next week. These are campaigns I thought you might want to be aware of if you weren't already. Sort of a last chance to review them and see if these are things that you might want to back. So the first game here is called Aventuria. Now, this is a card game that's existed in Europe for quite a while. They haven't always had English translations of all of the expansions. Some of them, not all of them. But with this Kickstarter, they're going back and they're creating a couple new hero packs, a couple new expansions, and I believe anything that wasn't, that you weren't able to get in an English translation now will be. Now, this is set in the fantasy universe called the Dark Eye. I've actually played some video games set in that universe. I like it. I think it's a pretty cool universe. And this is a big kind of sprawling card game. I'm going to look at it a little bit with you. It's good to know that they have a $15,000 goal here. They're well over that at $48,000, so they're funded. It's going to complete its campaign on Wednesday, March 15th. And I think the thing to keep in mind with this is that it is a kind of a huge card game, a fantasy-themed card game. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different expansions that you can get with it. But the gameplay for this, even though there's a narrative element to it, the gameplay for this is largely centered around combat. So you're going to have some story elements. Sometimes you'll be making choices in those story elements, but it will take you from one combat to the next. And in kind of the base games, there isn't that much content. So if this is something you think you like, you probably want to get a bigger package. But just know this isn't going to be a big sprawling storyline like Arkham Horror the card game, or something like that. Or the Rings the card game. There's like Pathfinder, War of the Rings, and some of those card games are trying to give you a big immersive, Dungeons and Dragons like campaign. I mean, Arkham Horror the card game is Cthulhu themed, but that gives you some big narrative. This is not that. This is a little bit of story, but it's basically focused on these card combat experiences, and then the narrative kind of bridges that. So I want everyone to be clear on that before you get excited and jump in and back it, thinking that it's a D&D campaign in a box that's kind of like a card game. It's not. It's the combat, and it's linked with story elements. Okay, so this is by Ulysses Spiel, a European publisher. The actual game itself here came out in 2016, and it has a 7.5 rating on Board Game Geek. It's pretty good, pretty solid. The weight is a 2.36, so it's coming in, in the middle of the medium light range. And it's got things listed like adventure, card game, fantasy fighting, cooperative game, critical hits and failures, deck building, dice rolling, hand management, narrative choice / paragraph, role-playing, scenario mission campaign game, solo solitary game, and variable player powers. Okay. So let's look at the content itself here. So, and they kind of listed in 2 different places. You've got the pledges off to the right, and then they kind of break it down off to the left. But it's listed in different orders, which can get a little bit confusing. So, new heroes. So each of these new heroes gives you basically a deck that's specific to a character. So they're kind of character packs, basically. And that is this, new heroes. And that is this pledge level. It's the cheapest one. It's $48. this is a little confusing because they're listing this in $ over here on the left, but that's actually euros. So if you go over here, it lists it underneath the euros actually in US dollars. All right, let me pop down to the bottom for a second. So the first level is going to get you, it's going to be $18 and in shipping. So if I plug that in, well, if I just add it on, right? So this is $48, but with this, we're looking at a $66 pledge for the 2 new heroes. Now, the next 3 pledge levels are going to have shipping of $24. We're just going to assume the high end of the range, but $24 shipping for the next 3 pledge levels. So, the first of those is this level called New to Aventuria, and that will get you the sort of original base game and 3 expansions. And, each expansion has more stories to it. So that is $128 with the additional shipping. You're looking at $154. This does not include any of the new content, though. This is for someone who's, doesn't have the base game and is looking to kind of get their feet wet, and they just want to play some content. So that is New to Aventuria. Let me just get this. So they have a bunch of different things here, so it can get a little confusing. They've got a solo bundle listed over here as well as kind of add-ons. Let me go back to the new. That's okay. New to Aventuria. That's that pledge level. Now, if we go to New Stories and Legends, this is $154 or $178 with the shipping, and this is for the 2 new items. So this does not include the base game. It doesn't include those 3 other expansions. It just includes these New Stories and Legends. It's 2 new modules. One, well, you know what? Here, it says down here, it says 2 new expansion boxes. Path of Legends allows you to play as a campaign, and then Mythical Stories provides you with an advanced story mode and includes 5 new adventures and 3 director's cuts. So this allows you to make your characters into kind of higher level characters and play further with them, advance them further along. So these are kind of the 2 new boxes with this, along with the 2 new character boxes. Now, if you wanted all of those new things, both new characters and those 2 new expansions, this is your pledge level. With shipping, you're looking at $215. And that would be this one, New Heroes, Stories and Legends. Now, if we move down here, the pledges, you've got Expanded New to Aventuria. So this will essentially combine all of those things. 2 new character boxes with this. You'll get the 2 new expansion boxes. The base game, the 3 expansions that come in that previous pledge, New to Aventuria, and then an additional expansion. All right, and so that is, let's see, that's the expanded New to Aventuria. That's this one. You get all those things. And this expanded New to Aventuria pledge level has a higher shipping rate. So we get into the $27 shipping rate here, so it's going to cost you $254 if you pledge the $244 all inclusive with the shipping. From there, we go to the All Venturia. This is getting expensive now. So it's $635 with this high shipping level. Another $35 on top of that, so you're talking $670, and then you're getting everything that's been made for Aventuria, and that's a lot of content. But like I said from the top, I just want people to know that they're not getting sort of a sprawling narrative, story-going, card version of a Dungeons & Dragons campaign in a box with this. They are getting narrative setups that kind of link combats, and you'll choose different characters, you'll have cards for those characters, you'll have statistics, and then as you go through and play the game, you'll upgrade the character and their statistics. They don't actually have anything in this campaign here that we're looking at that shows kind of those character sheets, because I've looked already, but you would do that. You kind of keep track of your character on a board, and you'll be able to upgrade their stats as you go. So before we move on from this, let's just take a quick look at the video here.
Aventuria, Stories and Legends. Adventure awaits with our 2 new stunning expansions, Path of Legends and Mythical Stories. Path of Legends box adds the new Legend mode, including over 600 cards. Level up your heroes and turn them into true legends. Mythical Stories introduces the new Story mode that confronts your heroes with serious decisions, which will have a profound impact on the course of the adventure. This Kickstarter will also add 2 new hero sets that broaden the variety of heroes for Aventuria. Join us now for Kickstarter exclusive content.
Okay, so it gives you, they kind of reiterated what I said, but it gives you a little bit of a more of a look at the art and stuff. So that completes funding on Wednesday. From there, I wanted to take a look at the Curse of Candelabria, and this is by a publisher called Lunar Oak Studio. This is really an ambitious production, and I think as such, there's a high level of risk associated with this. Now, the one thing in their favor is that they've done another game before called Sheol, and they did a good job with that. And by all accounts, people like it. It's rated an 8.6 on Board Game Geek, and it's a heavy game. It's got a complexity rating of 4.11. So they have produced, here you can see, they have produced another big game, that has a lot of components, and I'm trying to get it to a shot of this that has the miniatures in it. Just to show you that they did a game that has miniatures. I guess that shows some of the miniatures, right? So they have done this before, but they've done one game. And they did a run at the Curse of Candelabria once already, and it did not fund. It's really slow to load. Let's try it one more time. Okay. So yeah, this they canceled this in November of 2022, and they've relaunched now, and they've changed some of the components around a bit. Now, this is an area control game. It reminds me quite a bit of like a Kemet or an Inish or something like that. What makes it really unique is the theme here, this candle theme with these little candle flames on everything. And it's ambitious, definitely, in the production. They've got playmats. They've got these insane miniatures, like with all this detail. There are 5 of these, and there's like one for each faction. But as you'll see, as we kind of scroll down, they're kind of showing off the different factions here. There's a lot more miniatures than just that. So we're going to get to this. There's just a lot to scroll through. I will say, let me just stop along the way here. They've got these boards that kind of stand up, and I think if you're playing an area control game with a lot of players, a lot of, these kind of Kemet-ish, people like to play them with a high player count. It's cool to have these things that'll go on the side of the board so that you can see the markets and like the tiles and the abilities because they're standing up. So they're not sitting flat on the board across the table, making it hard to see. I think this is a really good production element. But let's keep going down. Okay, so these are the 5 faction miniatures, like super detailed, really impressive. And then every faction is going to have these, a candle miniature, a pilgrim actually, what does it say? Explorer miniature. Explorer miniature, a pilgrim miniature, a warrior miniature. Then you've got these little smaller land flame miniatures. These temples, these are also miniatures. And if you are to go full out with this and get the expansion stuff, this adds in more miniatures to replace other kind of things in the game. So lots and lots and lots and lots of miniatures. A few big curse miniatures, and then these candle flames. If you get this, these candle flames will go into your faction miniature to just kind of make it look similar. So you'll have the flames on the faction miniature as well. They've also got a 6th player expansion which is going to give you another faction with more miniatures and another big faction miniature here, this elephant. So my point in showing you all this, I mean, it's pretty and it's impressive, but it's also expensive. So the pledges are going to be expensive, but it's also going to be a very expensive game for them to make, which means there's lots of room for things to go wrong. And, they successfully produced Sheol, which also looks to be a pretty beautiful game. And by all reports, the gameplay itself is impressive as well. Got an 8.6 on BGG. But it's only one game that they've produced. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the actual pledges, and then we'll take a look at their video for a little bit more on the components. So if you're pledging the core game here, it's $95, and then there's shipping in euros. I think this will auto-populate. No, it won't. Okay, so let's just plug in the whole thing. 27 euros on 89 is, 96? 116 euros. So it's $123 for the core game. Now, if you're doing the core game, that means you won't be getting, the 6-player expansion, you won't be getting the solo mode, and you won't be getting all of those extra miniatures. And I think if you're trying to get the cheapest version of this game, that's the way to go. But it's such a pretty game anyway. I imagine if you get that, you might at least want the solo mode so that you can play it on your own. So if you did the solo mode as an add-on, because you can add these various items as an add-on, it would be an additional 24 euros, which is going to bring you to 140 euros total. So it'll be $148 for the core plus the solo mode. And I can't see anyone, you might want the neoprene mat as well, right? So if you added that on, you're looking at $179 for the core, the neoprene mat, and the solo mode. I can't imagine anyone doing less than that. Maybe you don't get the mat, but I think if you're getting the core game, you'd probably want the solo mode as well. But let's say you want both of them, right? You can do this pledge level. This will get you the 6-player expansion with the core and the solo mode. So that's the deluxe, and this one will run you $178. So it's almost the same price as if you were to do the core and add on the solo mode and the play mat. I guess it'd be your decision at that kind of price point whether you wanted the 6-player expansion or the mat. But either one is going to cost you, about $175. Now, if you get the all-in, you're going to get all three things: the 6-player expansion, the solo mode, the neoprene mat, but you'll also be getting that expansion with all of the additional miniatures and an art book. And this pledge level in the continental US is going to cost you $289. So it's impressive, I think, the production of the game. And I think I have faith that, based on the way Sheol landed, that the mechanics are probably pretty solid for this as well. But just know, if you're looking for this really interestingly themed alternative to something like Kemet or Inish, I guess also in that conversation could be like Blood Rage to some degree, but Blood Rage has more going on. Lords of Hellas, stuff like that, they have more going on. For a more pure, area control game, it's, you're pushing up to $300. So, and if you get the core version, that has its own price point, which we just mentioned. So it's not the cheapest area control game you're going to be able to find, but it is pushing the envelope some way in its production. But just also be aware that there is some risk involved. Even though they successfully produced Sheol and everything's probably going to be okay, it's not a cheap game to produce. Now, the funding goal here is $160,000. They're only at $140,000, so they have not fulfilled yet. But most campaigns do about a third of their business in the last 24 hours. So there's no doubt in my mind that this is... I know this is going to complete its funding. Before we move on, let's just take one look at their video here.
Long ago, Candelabria was a prosperous land of verdant fields and majestic mountains. But then came the curse. Every man and woman was turned into wax, and the land itself was never the same again. The great wandering castles turned into machines of wax and metal. The great houses changed, forgetting their human nature, fighting each other, all to keep their flame from going out. And the king? Some say he's still perched in his black castle, behind countless walls haunted by the smoke of the curse. Who will have the courage to challenge him?
These miniatures are really impressive, I think.
Curse and become the new ruler of Candelabria.
Okay, so that is the Curse of Candelabria. It's not a cheap endeavor, but very high production value there. The third campaign that I want to bring to your attention that is funding next week is for Scholars of the South, Tigris. This is from Garpel Games. Most people have played Garpel Games stuff at this point. They did the Of the North Sea trilogy, the Of the West Kingdom trilogy. They've also got a science fiction trilogy that they're 2 games into, the Circadians. And this is their third trilogy in their, I guess, cardinal direction series of trilogies. So they have North Sea, West Kingdom, now they've got South Tigris, and when they're done with this, they're going to be producing 3 games that will have East in the name. They've got a funding goal here of $14,000. They're at $360,000. So, I mean, they're well funded. And this is going to complete on March 15th. And they just make really, really good, solid, medium weight to heavy Euros. So if you're looking for a really good game experience and you want something that's not necessarily going to break the bank, like that Candelabria game, this could be a really good way to go. It's also, I mean, it doesn't have that kind of miniatures or that kind of production scale, but it's got art by Mihail Dmitrievsky, the Miko. He does the art on all of their games. He's also done the art on Valeria Card Kingdoms, like Bardwood Grove and Merchant's Cove, Imperium Legends and Classics. And there's a third game in that series coming out later in this year. And there's this art right there. I love his art. I think it works really well. It's very immersive as far as I'm concerned. So you can see I already pledged this. Your pledge level here is $43 for this game with the promo pack. Now there's shipping on top of that. So let's take a quick look at their shipping section. They're usually pretty good with shipping. So they have it in New Zealand dollars. Let me just convert this. So it's about $12 US shipping. So you're looking at $55 for the game in the promo pack. They also have a different pack for French, Italian, or Brazilian. So if, choose your language correctly. And then they have this coin scholar that includes a set of metal coins. So that's a little bit more. It adds on $12. And if you have some of their other games, you may already have some of their metal coins and not need more, which was my situation. And then they have, as you go down, they have pledge levels that include Wayfarers of the South Tigris, which is the first game in this new trilogy. So if you don't have that and you want that, you can get that through this as well. Now, I don't feel a need to play the video for this one, but let's talk about gameplay a little bit. Normally their games are worker placement games. They've got hand management going on. The iconography from one game to the next is pretty consistent, although they upgrade it as they go. They add in things. But if you've played some of their games in the past, Raiders of the North Sea, Architects, Paladins, Viscounts of the West Kingdom, you're familiar with the iconography and kind of where it's starting. The way that this game is a little bit different from the others is that it is a bag building dice building game. And so that's a little bit different from other games. It's not just card management. It's not just worker placement. You've got this bag building mechanic that's working off of various colors of dice. And there'll be, certain colors of dice that are harder to find that you'll need to use, I think, the more primary colored dice to then get the secondary colors of dice. But this game in the middle of the board here has this series of tracks. Looks kind of like Gaia Project or Terra Mystica. Players are going to be going up these tracks, and as they do, they'll get rewards, they'll get bonuses, they'll get things that help them be more efficient and take more efficient actions. Now, in the top right, you're going to have these areas here where these Caliph cards will go as they come out. It's sort of a soft timer for the game, so once the 4th Caliph card comes out, you'll be hitting the end of the game. It'll trigger the end of the game. There's a huge market here of cards, and these are all translators. So this game is about translating languages into different languages. And the first two series, the first two trilogies were very kind of Anglo. So the new series, the South Tigris series, is set, it's Arabic themed. So you're going to be translating all of these various languages into Arabic. And different cards that will come out will start with different languages. So as the game goes on, you get cards in different languages and you'll want to translate them over. And depending on, which languages you're translating, there'll be different steps to do that. I think one of the most involved ones is Chinese, going from Chinese to Arabic. But players will be drafting these cards up top here. As they do, they'll put them in this bottom area of the board and they'll put a player marker on them. And then they'll be able to use that character's ability to help them. Other players can also use that character's ability, but they'll have to pay the owner of the card to do that. And then later on, you'll be able to take that card off of this bottom part of the board, slip it under your player board, and that will supplement some of the player actions. They'll make them more powerful. So you're dealing with this whole kind of card mechanic system and the way it kind of evolves from one area to the next, eventually down onto your player board, buffing your personal player actions. You've got this area over here of the left of the board. You're going to be walking around in this area, kind of doing actions, and then going up these tracks. I find this, I like all of their designs in general, and I like the idea that they're doing something kind of different with this one. And if you like Euros, if you like heavy Euros, I think Garpel Games is always a safe bet. So this may be something that you might want to look at if you're looking for a really good game, but you don't want to pay hundreds of dollars for it. Now, next on the list is Ancient Terrible Things Reawakened. This game has existed sort of twice before. The first iteration came out in 2014. It's a lighter game, right? So the weight on this is 2.09. It's just barely into the medium light complexity range. And it's only got a 6.8 rating, which is not that high. It uses dice, horror, mythology, dice rolling, hand management, push your luck, re-rolling and locking, set collection, and worker placement. Now, this game was rethemed into a game called Konya in 2017. They changed some of the mechanics a little bit, and then they took what they learned from both games and they made Ancient Terrible Things Reawakened, which is kind of like the new definitive version of the game. Now, the art on this, I think, is really cool. You can see here it's got this like really kind of thick, dark, this thick black kind of line art around everything. They've got we'll get to it. Okay, so this is kind of the mechanics that you're dealing with. You're revealing cards, you're placing down these worker tokens, and then you've got encounters. You'll be using dice and dice mitigation, and then you'll be using the dice to fulfill things. So there's resource management, there's worker placement, there's dice mitigation. And you can see here there is this denim, instead of a neoprene mat, it's kind of a denim mat, which I think looks really cool. And because you're playing this game with tiles that will populate differently on the board every time you play it, I think the denim will hold these tiles in place fairly well. And there's like some black color to a lot of this denim mat, which I think matches up really well with the art on the tiles. There's also a thematic dice tower here, which looks pretty cool to me. The Riverboat Dice Tower, you can get that as an add-on. Here's the denim mat. And I think in general, I'm sort of on the fence about backing this myself. The gameplay is the real question mark, right? Since it's been rated a 6.8 by a lot of players. I think, well, we're going to look at the video, but I think if you like horror movies and you see a horror movie that the critics have rated a 6.8, you might still really enjoy that horror movie. But if you're not a fan of horror movies and a horror movie comes out that's a 6.8, that might not be a movie for you. So I think when you're looking at, I don't want to say lower scores because a 6.8 isn't super low. It's, it's not a 3, it's not a 4. But I think you probably want to be a fan of the game and the theme and the mechanics to really merit this one. It's probably not for everyone. So the print and play, there's a print and play version for $9. There's an upgrade pack for $25. So that's going to be if you already own, the original base game. It's got $12 shipping, so $37 for that upgrade in the continental US. It comes with the new promo pack and the print and play, but that will essentially upgrade your old version of the game to the new, what do they call it, Reawakened edition. If you don't have the old version, you just want to get the new one, you've got a core pledge here. It comes with the new version of the game and the promos, and that's going to be with shipping in the continental US. $61. And then you've got the deluxe, and the deluxe will throw in both that Riverboat Dice Tower and the denim game mat, and of course you'll get the base game, the print and play, and the promos. And that version with shipping will be $108. So it's still cheaper than Candelabria, but it doesn't have, even though it looks cool to me, it doesn't have that same production level, and it's a very different kind of game. There's also a lot less risk involved because this is a game that's existed twice before and has been refined. But I think ultimately the question here is this something for you or not? Because if it's your kind of game, I think you won't mind paying $100 for this really nice version of it. But if you don't like games that have some randomness to them with dice, if you're not a huge fan of this kind of Cthulhu type theme, maybe it's not the game for you. Let's see. So they talk about the gameplay over here. They say it's a pulp horror tabletop game. You play the role of an intrepid and foolish adventurer exploring a dark jungle river for secrets. Each turn you must travel to a fateful location and face an ominous encounter. If you overcome the encounter using a combination of dice, tokens, and cards, you gain secrets. The object of the game is to be the player with the most secrets when the game ends at the inexplicable event. I'm pronouncing like that because everything's capitalized, which I think is kind of neat. Like, you don't even need to know what the inexplicable event is. It's just the inexplicable event in all caps. So before we move on from this, let's just take a quick look at this video as well. I think this could determine whether or not it's for you. I think this is pretty cool how they started with that, the graphic, and they went into the actual game itself with this riverboat becoming the dice tower. Reminds me a lot of Kelly Jones or Ted McKeever. They were comic book artists back in the 90s, but that kind of just that thick, that black line art I like it. I like it a lot. But I do think that ultimately this is just going to be, for a certain kind of gamer, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be an amazing game that they'd love to have in their collection. And for another kind of gamer, it's not going to be their game. So hopefully you know which kind of gamer you are. All right, the final campaign here that's completing funding next week on Friday, March 17th is Lords of Vegas. Now, this is a game that has been around since 2010. They actually have an edition of Will Wheaton's Tabletop where they play this one. And this is sort of a city building and economic game set in Vegas. It's got like a medium light complexity. It's got a 7.3 rating on Board Game Geek, the original game. So it's, decent. It's higher than Ancient Terrible Things for sure. It uses area majority influence, catch the leader, dice rolling, random production, tile placement, and trading. Essentially, you're building casinos on the Las Vegas Strip. That's the tile placement part. But you're also using dice that you slot into them. And you do gambling as well. So there's kind of a combination of building up these casinos and then using them for various things, including gambling, but also kind of like an area control element. Now, they've got a $100,000 funding goal. They're at $207,000, so they're well funded. This is happening. March 17th, it completes. Lone Shark Games hasn't produced too many other things. Lords of Vegas is kind of their big game. And they had a base game. They had a couple expansions along the way. I believe the big one was called Underworld, which came out not that long ago. So this is fairly recent. In 2021, they did this big expansion. Okay, so if you're considering backing this, there's a new expansion for this called Americano. And that's really this campaign here. So it's $40 for that. And that's going to get you a whole bunch of new things. It's like 4 new boards, 4 new cities, and each one adds on different kinds of mechanics. So I think it's interesting, right? It's an older kind of game. It came out in 2010. This campaign also gets a little bit expensive, but this is going to appeal more towards, I think, Eurogamers, but in general, people who want to have a game that they're going to play a lot of. And with the 4 different new boards, they're going to have different kinds of mechanics in all these boards. So there's a lot of variability in gameplay. So if you're spending, a couple $100 on this, you're going to have a lot of variability in gameplay and, a lot of, let's say, breadth of gameplay, which is different than Candelabria, which you're paying a lot of money to have one gameplay experience that's highly produced and super shiny. So it just kind of depends whether you want to spend your money on pretty things and high production value or on a lot of gameplay possibilities. Okay, so shipping here. They're talking about Americano being $22 to ship, so it'd be $62 in the continental US. And they've got another pledge where you throw in this smaller expansion, a Con Jobs expansion. It's a deck of convention events, which is interesting, gives you a little more variability. Then they've got a pledge at $67 called Table for Six. That is the new 6-player version of the game. So if you don't own it, that's probably where you want to start. And there are some upgraded components for that. Now, if you kind of want all the new, so you get the new version of the game, the new 6-player base set, plus the 2 new expansions. I think Con Jobs is new as well, right? Is Con Jobs new? That is the question. Yes, it is. Okay, so that pledge would get you basically all the new stuff. The new version of the base game with kind of new pimped out components, and the new Americana expansion with the 4 boards, and then the new Con Jobs expansion. That would be $100. I'm just trying to see. Do they have a autofill for this? No, they don't. And I don't think that they say... Yeah, they do. They have a table. So with Americano in the US... you are looking at, which one was that? What was it called? The dinner package. For shipping, you're looking at $28, continental US, so $128. Now, if you want to keep going, you can pledge this $120 level, which will add in the Underworld expansion. This was the thing that was new a couple of years ago. So the shipping on that will also be $28, so you're looking at $148 for that pledge. Then there's this all-you-can-eat pledge. That's going to add in a unified rulebook, a playmat, and 100 poker chips. That starts to go up in shipping, so I think it's $234 inclusive of shipping. Oh, and then they had this other one, which is all gone, which was very specific. I had it like a special briefcase. So, $234 for the biggest version if you wanted to get the playmat. Did they show the playmat? I think they must. Let's get a quick look at it. That might be the playmat. Scrolling. These are all the different boards for Americano. Yeah, I think that was the playmat down there. But anyway, $234. So it's, not quite as expensive as Candelabria, but in this game you're paying for a lot of different gameplay versus just, one super highly produced experience. Now, before we peace out, I'm going to take a quick look at the video for this one because I think it'll show off some of the different stuff here. So let's do that, and then we'll wrap things up.
Lords of Vegas is a game about building, which means it's about turning this into this. Lords of Vegas is one of my favorite board games, and that's not just because I helped invent it. It's got everything you want in an economic game. Buying and selling, trading, futures, gambling, and backstabbing, and it's all set right here in beautiful Las Vegas.
Let me tell you how to play. There's a lot of actions we can take. We can build. So we have that parking lot. You know what? I'm going to build a casino there. That's my new place. You can sprawl, which is expanding your casino to an adjacent square. You know what? As much as I love purple, I'm just not feeling it. So we're going to remodel this casino. You can reorganize, which allows you to roll the dice and adjust how much they're going to pay. Vegas is all about gambling, so I'm going to bet $25 million. Hey, 12. That pays double according to this. Finally, you can raise. So we're going to raise this one up. And what that does is it scores and gets me double. It comes with planes for your scoring and also little cars for marking your parking lots. I like the purple one. It's a convertible.
He likes his car noises.
Game, whoever's got the most points win.
Las Vegas is a city that's always growing and changing, and that's what's happening to Lords of Vegas right now as we do the Americana expansion with new boards in New Orleans, Tombstone, Arizona, Reno, Nevada, and Atlantic City.
So this is the Reno board. You walk in, somebody named Johnny Reno has abandoned all of his casinos. We start taking over his casinos, and I place my casino right next to the Reno Arch that connects them so that whenever this one scores, I also get paid. This here's a Tombstone board. Some new things to this version are some classic characters that have come to join us, as well as using a poker deck to play, poker. The characters hang out on their ranch until you call them in for help. Take Wyatt Earp here. Before the start of a showdown, you can discard any card to draw a new one. It's pretty slick. This is the Atlantic City board, and it is huge. There's also one giant building in the center, so you can sprawl across the entire board. There's also these alleys that you could purchase for $15 million. They're always there, they're always great, but unfortunately, they're always a one. New Orleans. It's a huge board again because they added the Mississippi, which is, I've been told it's a big river. I guess it is. And that has river boats that connect onto the mainland of the casinos. Those just add lots more value. But whenever you score it, you have to roll again. And if you have a die that's lower than somebody else, they become the new captain.
Oh, he's the captain now.
To somewhere that's better for them.
Interesting.
Yes, you need the core game to play, but that's okay because if you don't have one, you can pledge here now. And if you already have one, it works just the same. The new one just has really cool looking pieces. I love this game. Nobody's upset if I lose thousands of dollars. I get to pretend I'm a casino mogul. And the new edition has 72 dice. 72. I don't think I could hold that many dice, but I know you dice goblins out there want them. We have reward levels with all of the expansions, all of the goodies and add-ons. If you missed the last Kickstarter, we've got you covered. The Underworld expansion is available at multiple tiers. It's the one with gangsters and grifters, which play a pretty big part in Vegas, as well as other gambling cities. But don't tell anyone, because I like my thumbs where they're at. After you make your pledge, there's a whole lot of things you could add on. One of them being poker chips. I heard you guys asked about it. Here they are. These ones are multiple denominations, matching the colors of the casino groups. There's 20 of each, but you'll probably want more. Another add-on we have is a beautiful playmat. It has the Vegas board, as well as the Underworld board. There's also this cute little spot where you can stack up all your tiles. Another add-on we have is the Unified Rulebook that has all the rules for Lords of Vegas, Up, and Underworld. So that way you don't need multiple books, you just have this guy. Con jobs. It's going to add a bunch of new events that you'll get to play with, such as a sci-fi movie premiere, which just pays out all Vegas casinos, or my favorite, which is the High Rollers convention. It makes you re-roll every high die in the casino.
So thanks for watching and thanks for playing Lords of Vegas. We hope you'll enjoy the new additions and everything this campaign has to offer.
All right. So that is Lords of Vegas. So that's 5 different campaigns that are all completing next week. I think some really good choices, right? Aventuria, The Curse of Candelabria, Scholars of the South Tigris, Ancient Terrible Things, and Lords of Vegas. Thank you very much for joining me. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. That will keep you looped in for when I publish future videos in this series, as well as for when I launch new series. I'll be back on Tuesday with another crowdfunding roundup looking at everything that came out over the weekend. Until then, take care, play lots of great games, and I'll see you very soon.